Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another series of event for the CSA UK. My name is Francesco Cipollone. I'm the chair of the CSA UK, and today we have the honor to have Frank Guanco from CSA Global. So we are doing an activity and a series of events over the next 6 to 8 months to make fundamentally to get more people involved in the research that we're doing, but also to evangelize and let people know the good work that the CSA is doing, the various areas that we are covering, and how you can get involved. Because I come a conference, I discuss with people, Frank, and a lot of people, a lot of time, they ask me, what's available, or people don't even know what the CSA does or what kind of research is out there. And sometimes they ask questions, but we have research available. So we brought you in to evangelize and help us understanding a little bit more what Global has and what offering do we have and how can we get more people involved in the various areas of research.
Of course.
Frank, I'll let the ball to you for introduction to the whole community of CSA UK, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Francesco. Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I know UK based, so it's early evening. I think we're getting around 6 or 7 p.m. Your time, but I'm based in Seattle, Washington, in the States. So it's still morning. You can see it's a sunny day in Seattle, so it's not the typical gray that one would expect or one would get in London per se. But yeah, I guess uh, to introduce myself, Frank Guanco. I've been with the Cloud Security Alliance for 9 years now. It'll be 9 years this August, and I've always been a part of the research team in various roles within the research team. First, starting off as an analyst and leading some of our working groups, and then slowly, as my role evolved, I've now become the program manager. So just taking care of all of our various documents and projects and everything that the CSA is working on from a research perspective and moving it through the pipeline to make sure that it's consumable by the audience. The audience is a part of the process of open peer review, promotion, newsletters, just kind of holistically, just more or less everything
Right.
as it relates to CSA research. And yeah, it's been a pleasure of mine. Normally, I'm more inward facing and work with our team on the back end. So it's kind of nice to do some things on the front end where I have to earn my reps and do my public speaking as well. So yeah,
No, it's
Francesco,
good
that's
to
a
be it's good to be out there. It's good to bring more faces of CSA in. We got Jim and we got Danilo more often, but it's good to bring the rest of the community out. And I'll I think you have a presentation, right?
I do, yes. So
Let me
everyone, I
add it to
have
screen.
some slides to share, and it is just as Francesco talked about a moment ago. It's just CSA research in 2022, a big overview of things that we are working on, updates, how things fit within the grand scheme of research, and absolutely how you can be involved because we would love to have more input and more feedback. And so, yeah, let's get to it. Um, so the first slide, it's just how CSA research is comprised. So CSA research, there are 31 working groups of various activity levels. And it's in the history of CSA, we've probably had about 60 or so working groups. And of those that have fallen off, they've been dormant or inactive. It just, or oftentimes they roll into another working group, or we find an opportunity where we've not solved the issue, but the mission statement of the charter was achieved. So as it stands right now, of those 31 working groups, they fit within those 9 research villages. So those villages, they have they're based off of like threat intelligence or emerging technologies, C-level security, security services, industry specific, securing DevOps, assessments and audits, privacy and architecture and components. So what those 9 are just groupings, but we try to have like-minded research initiatives as a part of that. So everything fits together. So those industry specific is, say, for instance, healthcare or financial services or security services would, emerging technology, would be AI or Internet of Things or blockchain. So that's where that would fit. And then we have of those 31, there are 8 featured working groups. And of those 8 featured working groups, we really like to feature our top threats working group, blockchain, Internet of Things, security guidance. Security guidance fits within our CCSK, so our certification. So guidance, we're working on version 5, and our CTO Daniele is leading off that project. Our CXO Trust working group, and that's with C-level individuals that want to help dictate what moves forward on how the C-level can help support cybersecurity. SDP Zero Trust, so software-defined perimeter, Zero Trust, emerging field there, and becoming more prevalent within cybersecurity. So that became a featured working group. Also, we have our CCM, and that's Cloud Controls Matrix. I'm sure most of you are aware, the Cloud Controls Matrix is our framework of all the things that relate to the structure of cybersecurity and controls and mappings and how we can better fit within what works there. And we have new and emerging working groups. And so when I mentioned that new and emerging working groups welcome, it's an opportunity to, if there's areas of cybersecurity that you want to be a part of, that you think is really interesting or emerging, what's hot and what's cool, that you can bring that up to the CSA research team, and we can start working that of like, okay, does this fit within a working group, or is it an initiative or a project, and how we can move forward from there. So we always welcome feedback and ways that others can be a part of our CSA research. I also just wanted to touch on research publications. And since CSA was founded about 12 years ago, we've had roughly over 500 releases, I think around like 550, 553 or so. And in 2021, we really increased our output with 70 releases. So that averages about to 1 release every 5 to 6 days. So very exciting for us. It's a completely high output. And we thank those that have been a part of that development, peer review, content creation. And so again, just give a little snapshot of where we are and where we're going. First off, we have a call for participation, and that's for these 2 working groups, our global security database and our global security database working group and our DevSecOps working group. I would say those 2 are 2 of our hottest working groups at the moment. And they just recently, in the case of global security database, they kicked off earlier this year. So they want more input into their group. Their charter is ready to be released shortly, and they're having their biweekly cadence of those meetings. And we'll touch on meetings in a moment. And the that Global Security Database Working Group, acronym GSD, that mission of that group is to identify and understand the problems around vulnerability, discovery, reporting, publication, tracking, and classifications of those problems. And so it's a broad topic. We're very excited about it. And yeah, it's just trying to encompass a lot that's going on with the working group. The other is our DevSecOps working group. And as we know, so DevOps has always been a part ingrained in life cycle for many organizations, but we're trying to layer on the security component and how that can best fit into the DevOps life cycle. So that DevSecOps working group, they try to work on best practices and provide guidance and playbooks to help teams implement security into their process. So that group, it launched several years ago, but it went dormant for a little bit, and now it's just trying to reinvigorate itself and move forward. So that's very exciting to be a part of, and would love to have more people join that working group. Other active working groups, and I just want to highlight these 4, our blockchain working group, healthcare, SDP, Zero Trust, is because those working groups have, I'd say, the highest output. They meet frequently, biweekly cadence, presentations. They produce more documents. They have many documents in various levels of peer review. In the case of SDP Zero Trust, it's become a pillar of the Cloud Security Alliance with our recent announcement 2 weeks ago of the Zero Trust Activation Center. So we're just trying to focus on technologies that we're noticing momentum behind them, movement and energy. And so those are always working groups that will always welcome more people. And finally, to close that, the top threats working group is the other active working group I wanted to mention, just because top threats is always important as it relates to use cases, survey reports, deep dive, going into what those threats, risks, issues can be. Also, I just wanted to highlight our upcoming meetings. I took a screenshot of meetings that occurred in the month of March. And so this is a newer thing that we've implemented. So it better enables any volunteers or those that want to be a part of Cloud Security Alliance to see what working groups are meeting on that particular day. Say, for instance, that you might have a few moments of spare time that you want to just learn about a topic that's of interest. So you can always take a look at a month glance there. And I have that link there where it's cloudsecurityalliance.org/meetings. And that'll have the monthly view and also a listed view. And so we have the working group meetings that are scheduled from now until the end of June. So I want have a quarterly glance at what you want to be a part of and what you might want to learn about. Excuse me. All right. So research publications, research releases. And I just wanted to feature those that are more prevalent and have gone out recently, so you're aware of what they're about and how you can help consume them or understand. The first one I just wanted to mention was we've had over the last several months more and more chapter localizations. And what that means is chapters from our Indonesia chapter or our Turkish chapter or Japanese chapter. What they do is they take various documents, and the example here I have is the Tour to Zero Trust Architecture, and that was translated into Japanese. They take a document that they feel is useful for their local environment, and the chapter will go through the process of translating that document in Japanese or that particular language that is for that chapter. So we're always excited, and that's always a great opportunity to localize CSA research into Spanish chapter, Japanese chapter, the Korean chapter, so on and so forth. So as of now, I think we have about 8 to 9 languages that increases CSA's global scope to those communities that can consume it as it sees fits for their world. The other recent releases that we've had was our blockchain DLT, and DLT is Distributed Ledger Technology Risk and Security Considerations document. And this paper, it just shares insight into how the 3 layers of blockchain technology interact with enterprise security services to deliver security outcomes. So blockchain in focus, and that went out, I believe, just a couple of weeks ago. So we're very excited about that document. And again, blockchain, very much in the news, very topical as well. That DevSecOps Pillars 4 document from the DevSecOps working group we talked about a moment ago, it's the Pillars 4. So they have 6 pillars of DevSecOps is the mission of the group. And this is the 3rd document that's come out. It's kind of jumped around in order just based off content creation. And that document was Bridging Compliance and Development. And this document, it provides guidance to ensure the gap between compliance and development is addressed by recognizing compliance objectives. So I believe that they're working on their next pillars document as of the moment. And so there's a great opportunity for you to be a part of that working group, or the development of that document. The next document that came out was our Cloud Security Market and Cloud Security and Technology Maturity Survey. And the goal of this survey is to better understand the maturity levels of organizations for the cloud and technology, both currently and in the near future. So taking a wide brush of just understanding how cloud fits within their organization. So definitely much more of a higher level view of cloud, what they see moving forward and what their concerns are. And part of the CSA Research group is we often have surveys that go around just as it relates to something to be, if there's a member company or corporation where they want to learn more about a topic, they'll often reach out to us for a survey, just like taking a pulse of what the industry is thinking as it relates to that. And then we'll share those survey reports after we get the results and spend time deducing that and trying to understand what the gaps are and what we notice for trends. The other document I wanted to discuss here is our software-defined perimeter specification V2 document. This is a version 2. Version 1 came out, I believe, 2014, so about 8 years ago. And it was ripe to be updated, just with the introduction of the broader trend of zero trust and how the information security industry embraced principles of SDP architecture and how zero trust layers into that. So this document was expanded, enhanced, had more additions, clarifications, and extensions from that version 1. So we're very excited about that, as it just relates, goes into that greater zero trust umbrella that CSA is working on. So I wanted to spend some time talking about upcoming publications. As you see, we have about 9 here, trying to keep that output of greater than 60 documents a year, so roughly a bit more than 1 a week. But the first I wanted to feature was the integrating SDP and DNS and enhanced zero trust policy. So the purpose of this is to explain how DNS and research management DDI systems can be combined with SDP to deliver improved security visibility, resiliency, and responsiveness. So this document's going to be going out in about 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks from today, and it's again rolling into our zero trust component. The state of ICS security in the age of cloud. This is from our industrial control systems working group based out of the APAC region. And again, this document, it just hopes to create awareness and share insights on the benefit of leveraging cloud for those high-level industrial control systems. You'll notice we have a couple of charters here from our Cloud Data Breach Investigation Working Group. This is still a working group in development. It's from the APAC region, still figuring out what the role is, determining next steps for it. We also have our charter from our healthcare working group and our GSD charter. So those are all going out shortly, discussing more of the tactics behind working groups, next steps, goals, missions for the working group. So those will be going out, but just more high-level document, operational in scope. Other documents that we have coming out is our C-level guidance to securing serverless architectures. This is from our serverless working group. And the purpose of this document is just to provide a high-level overview of serverless architectures along with the risk and security concerns when implementing that solution. There's one that I didn't have on here, and I apologize for that, but we have our IoT Security Controls Framework Guide. This is version 3 of that document, and it has it's for enterprise IoT systems and incorporating multiple types of connected devices, cloud services, and network technologies. So there's a framework for that, and it's an accompanying guide to provide context to the framework. Also, we have our critical controls implementation for Oracle Fusion applications. This is the next document from our enterprise resource planning working group. They've previously released several other documents of critical controls implementation for AWS, another part of Oracle. And this is just provides essential and optional security features that should be enabled within Fusion applications to evaluate security baseline. So that's from the ERP working group. And the next is from our healthcare working group, which we talked about as one of those hot active working groups that we always like to feature, just because we're trying to implement over the last couple of years during the pandemic and how much more remote healthcare work was a part of that, and how cybersecurity and how cloud can benefit healthcare organizations. And so that's a part of that, this healthcare supply chain risk management document, is just to share the practices of delivering service partners and just what that so that supply chain won't be exploited. So this document spends a lot of time working on that, or featuring and diving deep into supporting healthcare organizations. The next document I wanted to mention was just that the HPC Cloud Services Onboarding Guide. And that's from our high performance computing working group. It's based out of the APAC region. And this document is, it just aims to present an overview of what to consider for proper selection, design, implementation of HPC solutions. So that's one of the working groups that we have coming up that we're very excited about, and a document we're really excited about. And that'll probably be going out early June or so, late May, early June. So again, the cadence for that we have for a lot of our documents is we want to have something come out weekly or every 10 days or so. So these will be coming out shortly. They're just going through various levels of production, design, polish, just to make them market ready. Excuse me. So one thing I wanted to feature, chapter publications, and how chapters, which again, thank you for your support of the Cloud Security Alliance and the Cloud Security Alliance's UK chapter, are chapter publications. And I wanted to feature 4 here, and how this gestated in the life cycle of things was these chapters, they had a topic that they worked on internally that they thought it was beneficial for their audience, or they wanted to do some thought sharing of their expertise. So in the case of that New Jersey chapter, the first one, the cybersecurity best practices for the manufacturing industry, they just wanted to talk about the how cybersecurity relates to manufacturing and the larger scale there, and what it relates to, and the information. So they spent time working on that amongst their constituents, amongst their chapter, to try to how they can help support the cybersecurity industry. So they worked together as a chapter, and they reached out to CSA Global of like myself and our team of, oh, we have this document and we'd like to help promote it, give it a greater audience. And so what that does is it goes into our life cycle of creation, where it's into peer review, where we have open peer review, where we help support that by letting as many of our user base, those that are members, be aware that this document is in peer review, so they can have the wisdom of crowds go into it, so they can have their comments, and it'll be vetted, and something just to use that conversation of trying to make the best document possible. And we'll also help support the document by going through the various levels of production, of design, making it fit within the CSA brand standards, and those next steps. So as you can see, they have a common design language where we want to feature that this comes from the chapter, that it's we want to prop them up, and that they've put the heavy lifting into creating the document. And we always welcome any chapter to do so. As of the moment, our New Jersey chapter in the States, and our DC chapter in Washington, DC, and our Israel chapter, they've produced those 4 documents. And we're very excited by it, because we can foresee more in the future, more and more chapters wanting to do their thought sharing, or they've had their chapter work on that, and they want to have a greater audience beyond their chapter, where they feel it might be beneficial and behoove the industry to understand what their concerns are and what their findings were. So that's something that we think we want to have more chapters do. So the UK chapter, if there's topics that you think is interesting and like to share with a broader audience, we'd welcome that. And you can reach out to me or Francesco, and he can touch base with me. I have my contact information towards the end of these slides, where we want feedback. We want there to be a discussion and a conversation of how we can best support chapters, and how they can be involved and enrich what they do, and also enrich CSA and the greater cybersecurity industry. So yeah, that's one way we'd like to have more involvement and more ways to be a part of CSA. As it stands now, we moving to, getting involved in open peer reviews. And one of the things that CSA always has throughout the year, we'll have a number of documents in peer review, where anyone can take a look at the document, provide comments, read what's upcoming. So these are more in their much more raw stage, and you can provide comment. They're not designed, it's not has the CSA polished. So we have 3 documents in peer review at the moment, one from our Cloud Key Management Working Group, our SaaS governance best practices for cloud customers. This is just a baseline of governmental practices for SaaS environments, and that best practices for smart contract security Hyperledger. And this is from our blockchain working group, and this just establishes best practices for using smart contract, specifically in Hyperledger environments, Fabric 2.0 environments, excuse me. So we had a question that came up in the chat, and thank you, Paul. But the research discussions, a lot of them, because we're our CSA team, we're global in scope, but for the most part, we're based in the States. So a lot of these times are scheduled for Pacific time. Oftentimes, we try to have them as early in the morning as possible, so to better reach our European audiences. And so oftentimes, most of our calls will be in the early AM time, which I know is early evening, getting into happy hour for the UK chapter constituents. So that's one of the parts. Let me actually move to the next slide, so that's kind of relates to that. So for those that aren't able to join those live discussions that we talked about in the earlier upcoming meetings, I'd strongly suggest and encourage you to please join those Circle communities. And Circle is our CSA forum. It has all of our working groups. That's where all the conversations happen and take place. So announcements that occur as it relates to working group calls or announcements for call for participation for peer reviews, they happen in Circle. So for instance, if you are not able to join those working group calls, you can join Circle and you can be aware of what's happening, of the discussions there. You might not get that real-time discussion as it's happening, but you're at least able to get an overview of status for working group projects, development, position paper developments as well. I also included here for getting involved was surveys. Mentioned earlier, surveys often happen throughout the year. I think right now we don't have any up, but we're going to have one live in a moment. And our Zero Trust Advancement Center, and that announcement just went last week. And so we're very excited at that. We have a few founding companies that are a part of that to work on best practices as it relates as encompassing as much as possible for Zero Trust. Yeah, so get involved. Please feel free to reach out to us. I'm closing off my slides here in a moment, but that is my email. And also you can feel free to reach out to me at on LinkedIn, Frank Guanco. I am on Twitter, but I'm not very active there. But yeah, if you have any questions as it relates to CSA Research, how you can be involved, I please encourage you to do so. So Francesco, that's it for my presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everybody.
So maybe a question from the audience. How does CSA decide how to start a new research? Is that a chapter led? Is that out of the blue? Somebody like Jim or Daniela wakes up in the morning and decide, yeah, this is cool. Let's work on it.
Yeah, no, Francesco, that's a great question. So when research starts, it starts sometimes organically. It could happen at the chapter level where a chapter is curious, like, oh, I want to learn more about this. And it could either be a working group or it could just be an initiative. And part of that start is it will disseminate that amongst ourselves on the CSA team, work with our executive council, and just vetting that idea and massaging it with those folks that brought it up to us on how we can massage it and get to the root of what we're looking at. And so then as it continues moving forward, then we'll spend more time in working with the working group that might be a part of that or those that might be interested in the topic. So it's iterative, it moves forward, it's very much collaborative. And then once it gets going into a working group or an initiative, then we'll start scheduling the calls. We'll do the announcements for it. Well, we're CSA and with partnership, for instance, with the UK chapter, we're working on this project or working group. And we'd like to have more people involved. If this abstract fits in with something you're interested in, we'll move forward with that. So it happens very organically. Sometimes working groups or that research, it has strong goals, and then it's sort of fizzles as we kind of figure it fits into this level. So yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about that and how we can help support those organizations.
Brilliant. And the other question was, is there any, because the CSA UK versus, I mean, CSA Global is mostly in the US, Seattle, and focus on that kind of regulation, there is a lot of stress around new policy being brought in with a broader view of GDPR and European regulation. But how do we is there a specific decision method on US versus Europe versus Asia, or is that organically grown from the chapter?
I'd say it's more organically grown, not necessarily from the chapter, but also from the working group. And I mean, we're aware that that's a gap and a hole that we can improve upon with helping out, supporting more of our EU members and our APAC members as well. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to hire a few more people that are Europe based, so that they're aware of the conversation that's happening there, so that they can bring it back to our team and work more globally on that level versus this kind of square peg round hole that we have with time differences, locale, and whatnot. So we're definitely trying to support that. And you are right. A couple of years ago, we spent a lot more time on GDPR just because that was so prevalent, and we knew that we had this deadline that we needed to get there. So we do see that as an area of opportunity for CSA research, and a big part of it too is we also need on the chapter side and those on European based to help support that and provide that energy and verve, and will also help match that up, because just a big part of it is just proximity and time, and just the energy of those that are able to support moving through with research. And I think that also goes into that thought leadership part, where we have those individuals that are really energized, and to support that, we want to try to tap into that at the moment and try to move forward with that. And yeah, so CSA research. We're not perfect, and we know that there's certain biases in place as it relates to the US, and we're trying to work on that too.
And that's bring us to the second question, because especially the leadership you touch upon, it's mostly, I mean, aside from Daniela, most of the leadership is based in the US. How do we cover more with, chapter calls, aside from the chapter calls, more leadership calls, or more representation from Europe versus UK, Europe versus US purely led, because a lot of the working group are US led?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think a part of that is, even though you're not able to join those calls, I think if anything, dive into a community like Circle much stronger, and having a stronger voice there of what you're looking for, because we want more opinions. And when you have something that's so US focused, then there's not the diversity of thought that we'd like to have. So I think part of it is using Circle, and also just reaching out to like myself or other members of the CSA research team, of just like, having a one-to-one conversation or one-to-one dialogue of, these are our concerns, so that we can be aware of them, and bring that up to our the chairs of the working group, or having it in that environment, versus not being able to always join the calls, or that difficulty there, because we want that thought leadership, and that those dissenting voices or supporting voices as it relates. And so and again, for that thought leadership part, if we will find a way to make it work, to get more EU individuals, if they do want to be support, we'll do our best efforts to make sure that those voices are considered, and they can be in the role of a co-chair, or trusted individuals that we want to have a part of the CSA research.
Brilliant. And maybe that leads us to the last question. What is the next hot research, next hot things that is coming up from CSA, aside from zero trust, that is probably with me, Paul, and Daniela is banging the drum.
Of course. Oh, I know it, definitely. Yeah. So the next hot research that we're spending more time working on is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we have the structures and bones in place, and just we're trying to determine how to best move forward, where we want more voices as a part of that conversation versus a couple singular. So that's the next research that we have. Another is that we're spending time with is 5G, and how much 5G is going to impact our world, and various industries. It's very topical as a discussion that we hear about in the media. So those are two. That's an area that we want to spend more time with. Still kind of figuring itself out. Still kind of more in the norm forming stage of group development. So I'd say for next hot research would be machine learning, AI, and 5G. And then we have other working groups. You talked about them earlier, the cloud data investigation working group that we have. And but yeah, lots of stuff to come. And we hope they might not always be working groups. They could always just be a project, and like a one-off, where this is just the pulse of what we want to have in the industry. We put it out there, and if there's energy behind it, then it's like, okay, now let's spend more time with it, because we know this is coming up. And yeah, so I guess hopefully that answers your question of a few things that we're pretty excited about. And for those AI working groups, and they're not live yet, but if there's those that are interested in, then we can start scheduling calls quickly so we can get more people be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, I think from Cambridge and the UK area there is a lot of hot topics. There is a lot of other US investors that are coming in the Cambridge area for the research in deep tech. So that's a lot of exciting things that could come up. But yeah, so if just a refresher, if you want to get in touch with Frank or ourselves, you can get in touch with research@cloudsecurityalliance.org, or for our chapter we have our LinkedIn at cloudsecurityalliance.org. UK, or you can reach us through all the contact for the website are www.cloudsecurityalliance.org.uk for the UK chapter. We have a weekly call, we have board meetings, so please join us, or join us on Circle, where we extend the community and we extend in the discussion ongoing on these calls, so to continue the conversation. And it's also a good way to network and get in touch with myself, Frank, and the rest of the various working group, and probably is the best way to get in touch with the people around CSA. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Frank, for the overview, and I am looking forward to get more and more involved. I'm personally involved in the vulnerability DB.
Very nice. So that's great. Yeah. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, everyone, for joining the call. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful evening.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and stay safe and cloud safe. Yep. Bye.